Fuck the IBJJF.
Oh.
Like, comes from that whole, like, Brazilian machismo, old school dojo storming, fucking my dick is bigger than yours, you know?
I've seen that shit. It's fucking crazy.
Like, I'm here! What the fuck is going on?
Hey everyone, on today's episode, we're going to be chatting with Jess Stroll about her nearly career-ending injury and how she worked her way back onto the top of the podium in 2023. Jess is a brown belt under Kyotera. She's also an instructor at CTA HQ, as well as a full-time competitor. Her story is truly inspiring, so if you want to learn actionable strategies for dealing with potentially devastating injuries, keep listening because this episode is for you. Before we get started, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Victory Submission Strength, the strength and conditioning gym for grapplers in San Jose, California. If you want to get stronger, faster, and more mobile so that you can bulletproof your body, win more matches, or just spend more time on the mats, go to victorysubmissionstrength.com and schedule a free strategy session with a coach to see how. Welcome back to another episode of Thanks for the Roll, where we help jiu-jitsu athletes unleash their full potential on the mats. We're your hosts, Matt and Josh. Join us each week for actionable advice, expert insights, and the inside scoop on exactly what it takes to level up your game. Jess, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hello.
Let's just dive right in and talk about the injury that you sustained in 2022.
Yeah.
Belt,
It was, what was it? It was kind of like midway through 2022.
Okay, so what happened? Walk us through, like, leading up to that tournament. Was it at a tournament or was it?
It was in preparation for Worlds, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, it was going to be my first Worlds at Purple Belt. And I'd been training. I was probably overtrained at this point too. Let's be honest. We all tend to overtrain and under rest in jiu-jitsu. The value of rest is very, very underutilized, underfocused. I can't think of the word right
agreed.
now.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, I was overtrained and it was like a Thursday, right? So my training week normally runs from Monday to Friday, so it was towards the end. I was really tired. I hadn't had a lot of rest, stress, whatever. And it was the last training session of the day. And we were doing situationals from standing. And somebody this person was like a little bigger than me, and I was a little overtrained, and maybe there was like a little bit of an energy mismatch when we were going as far as like me trying to go lighter, them trying to go harder. But it was... they attempted a collar drag, and something about the placement of one of their legs was a little bit weird. And I ended up stepping, and all of my knee ended up kind of getting knee barred sideways. I don't know how to describe it, but essentially I felt my knee completely dislocate. And all of the muscles around my knee kind of spasmed really hard and pulled it back into place. I actually think that was more painful than the tear, was the muscles spasmed so hard that they actually like damaged themselves a little bit. And I was literally like yelling, like there was no audible pop, but like I knew something like really bad had just happened because I couldn't walk like at all.
That sensation was immediate.
It was. I couldn't. There was no way.
Shock or anything. There wasn't like a period where you didn't know what happened. You just like, as soon as they hit.
Like, yeah, as soon as it happened, like I knew something was bad. I didn't know the extent of the damage, but I knew like it was bad. Yeah. Like something bad had just happened. I literally, like I said, I don't know how to describe it other than I could visualize my knee dislocating.
Yep.
And I was like sitting there like, oh God, make it stop. And, they kind of pulled me over the side of the mat, put me on some ice. I should have gone to the hospital. Mm-hmm. I really should have gone to the hospital. But I didn't because I'm stubborn and a little dumb sometimes.
We just talked to Matt Tillman about stubbornness in jiu-jitsu athletes. So don't worry, you're not alone.
Shit, it'll be fine by tomorrow. I just got to ice it for a couple days and it'll be all right. So by the next day, like I still could not walk on it at all. And I didn't even have the feeling of instability yet because there was so much swelling. So I called one of my friends, Aton, and I had him take a look at it because he has a lot of experience with injuries and whatever. And he's like, "Hey, like I can't diagnose you with anything, but I really think you need to get an MRI." Kind of gave me an idea of what it might be, and so we got me hooked up with an MRI. Luckily, he knew some people, and Dr. Dino Del Mastro helped me out getting an MRI too, and it confirmed I had not just torn my ACL, but I tore my MCL and my meniscus as well. And it was they actually have a name for that specific, those three structures being torn. It's called the unhappy triad, and I am so glad that nobody told me that when I got the injury, because I would have been so pissed. But yeah, it was miserable. That was just a terrible experience.
What's going through your head when you realize that you tore not just your ACL or your MCL, but also your meniscus at the same time?
Oh my God. So one of the first things I did actually was call Christina, just sobbing, because you tear your ACL and then you start to do the research and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be out of the sport for at least 9 months. And it is devastating to your identity as an athlete. And it is, I think, probably one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do was shift my goals from working to be a better athlete to working to be an athlete again, right? And that's actually when I have a lot of people ask me advice about the ACL injury is, what do I do? I say the first thing, they're expecting like exercises or whatever. The first thing I say is like, hey, you need to make your mindset that your job is not to be an athlete. Your job is to recover now, and change your entire set of goals. But it was devastating. Like, there's no other word for it. It was absolutely devastating. You think of it, people like sprain their wrist or or whatever joint, and they're like, oh, I'm going to have to be out for 3 weeks or even 6 weeks. And they're heartbroken, right? And it sucks. And people don't want to take time off, and they end up making things worse. But imagine 9 months, especially not just as a casual practitioner, but like this was my job at this point. You know, I was a full-time competitor and athlete, and it was, yeah. I was really grateful to one of my friends was at this point studying for sports psychology, and she graduated with her master's. Shout out to Erin Hurley and Trainy Mind for kind of guiding me along the path of, you know, changing my mindset, because I don't know what I would have done if I wasn't able to do that. You have to completely switch up your thinking. Also, to shout out to Margot Ciccarelli for giving me access to her accelerator program that she was running too, just to keep my mind in jiu-jitsu and keep my mind focused and kind of keep the camaraderie and community going too.
What was her accelerated program? Is this technique videos or what?
She runs. I'm not sure if she's still doing it, but she ran an accelerator program where it was like, you got to work with like a physical therapist, a like dietitian. It was actually Dr. Kickass and Dr. Capodaglio, two names that people around the jiu-jitsu scene might know. And you get to ask them questions, and they gave master classes, and we would post on our goals, and Margot would give mentorship. It was a really, really nice program, and she kind of extended that out to me in order to just, again, give me access to jiu-jitsu and keep my mind in jiu-jitsu at least. And actually, one of the most important things, which, real quick, if anybody ever gets injuries, keep going to the gym. keep being involved. They say the same things for veteran. I don't know if you remember this, Josh, or I don't know if they did it in basic training for you. If you have a severe injury, one of the best things you could do is go to the gym and still put the uniform on. They say the same thing for veterans too. We need when we have an injured active duty military member, they still need to be able to wear the uniform. It's still important to feel like you're part of the team.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. It sounds like you've got a really great team between, Eitan, Dino. We haven't talked about Dr. Masi yet. I'm sure we will.
Oh, absolutely.
Aaron, Christina, Margot. You've got a great team.
No, and I always say too, like people talk about my recovery, and I tell them you have to. I am very blessed to have had the team that I had. It was actually Dr. Dino that recommended Dr. Masi to me, who is, I think, hands down, just one of the best orthopedic surgeons in the world, with a heavy focus on athletes, and just his mannerism. I feel like most surgeons, when you go into their office, are kind of like very business. Dr. Masi comes in, he's like, hey, like, how you doing? What we got going on today? Like, very caring, very warm.
He's got a great bedside manner.
Yeah.
I've met Dr. Masi through Jess, actually, and I've been fortunate enough to watch several surgeries at this point, and I can say with honest conviction that hopefully I never need it, but if I ever did, that's the person who's working on me. His team's the best, and you were in really good hands, obviously.
Yeah, and I could not have asked for somebody to take better care of me. And I had access to a wonderful orthopedic surgeon, somebody who is studying sports psychology, who's now a sports psychology consultant. I had access to my mentor, my best friend, my team, a physical therapist that helped me get my range of motion. Of course, Victory Submission Strength, who helped me get strength back in my leg and helped me rehab my knee to a point where I was performance ready again. And I haven't had any incidents of re-injury, anything like that. And I understand that that's not going to be accessible for everybody, but I would implore that if you have any way to access even some of those resources, please do, whether it be my team or anybody else. Like, find yourself a good recovery team, and it's not just you.
Yeah, and we can put links to all of those people's Instagrams and websites and everything in the notes and everything, because they're great resources regardless of whether or not you're actually able to work with them.
Absolutely.
They'll at least know where to point you. So did you have anything you wanted to add to the team comment? Okay. So let's talk about, you kind of ended on joining Victory Submission Strength. This is like post-surgery, post-PT, but now we're getting into, it's almost time to compete.
Yes.
Let's walk through that.
So I actually had to have, first thing, I actually had to have 2 surgeries. One was to get my range of motion back. I built so much scar tissue. It's just a genetic weirdness thing that I have, and Dr. Masi was great in helping me within a couple of days. So we got me in for the MRI. The next day I was in for an appointment with him, and the next week I was in for surgery to remove that scar tissue. That should say a lot with how much he cares, because I have never even heard of that kind of appointment availability with an orthopedic surgeon before. So just going to throw that out there. I also had the opportunity to invest in stem cells and PRP, which if you have access, great. If not, it's not a deal breaker. But getting back into it, it was very intimidating. And I had to learn the difference between... So with Victory, it was a lot of experimenting and learning the difference between I need to push through it post-operative pain and I need to back off because this is too much for my knee right now. And I got in tune with my body in a way that I never have been before, because they are 2 very different types of pain. One of them is a very distinctive no from your body, and the other is kind of like, oh, this sucks, but I can push through it.
One of the things Christina told me the last time she was here, she's like, is it pain or strain? That's the terminology that she used, and that's something that we've since adopted at Victory Submission Strength. Is, when people mention things not feeling quite right,
Right.
like, is it pain or strain? And that delineation is, I think, really important in determining whether or not you should keep going or back off.
Right. Is it going to make it worse tomorrow?
Right.
Yeah. So that was definitely an adventure. And then getting back on the mats was a whole different. I was rolling with this big chunky metal brace for, let's see, around 4 or 5 months. I started drilling very lightly with very selective partners who were very fucking careful. I think around the 6 or 7 month mark, I started doing some light situationals. And it wasn't around it was about the 8-month mark where I started rolling again, and even still with the brace. And I did not take that brace off until after the 9-month mark, because that was the advice that I was given. Even then, from months 9 to 10 to 11, still super, super careful with training, not competition training, not hard training. Again, not risking all of that hard work that I had been doing, right?
As an aside, I think that's what happens to a lot of athletes is they get injured, and then the period during which they are most susceptible to re-injury is
return to sport.
Is when they feel better. You feel better before you actually are.
Yes.
And there's a moment there where you're like, I could do this. I'm good. And then you jump back on and almost immediately re-injure yourself.
Yes. And so for ACL return to sport, there are actually, so the meniscus and the MCL heal a lot faster. But for the ACL, I had a full ACL reconstruction, right? So they had to take a part of my quadriceps tendon and make me a new ACL, drilling through the bone and kind of threading it through.
I've seen that shit. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it is a brutal surgery. It is
wild what they do.
It is qualified as a major surgery,
Yeah.
right? And what happens is, at first your ACL graft is really, really strong, but over time the tissue breaks down, and it starts to remodel the graft into a new ACL. So it takes that tissue and makes it. But during that period, there's a point of like 4 months or so where it's weak.
Right. Because it is neither tendon nor ligament.
Yes.
It's like,
yes. And the tendon actually starts to break down while that cellular remodeling goes on. And it's about 9 months where it's the safest return to sport, but it actually takes about 2 years for it to fully reach pre-surgical levels of strength. Okay. So I'm not even at that 2-year mark yet. I think it's about 1 year and 7 months, something like that. Okay. So we're getting there.
Yeah.
But as far as functionality, like my leg is fully functional again. But yeah, I think that's a lot of people's mistake is again, they never switch that mindset of my goal is recovery. My goal is to be an athlete, right? And if I had not, I probably would have been in that camp and said, oh, my goal is to be an athlete. My goal was to meet the return to sport testing criteria for safe, competitive jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And there are specific, if you look online, there are specific, I don't have that off the top of my head, return to sport criteria as far as like quadricep strength, jumping ability. It has to be within like 10% of your non-surgical leg or something like that. Yeah. So my goal was to meet that before I went back, and I wasn't doing it a moment before,
Absolutely. Okay, so that brings us to first competition back, and Josh and I were both there for that. Actually, we all went down to San Diego together, all competed, and got to watch Jess in her first competition back. It was absolutely, for me, as your strength coach, was moving, to say the least. Like, I fucking cried to see you do that, and actually to see you throw your leg over in that first match, like going for the omoplata, and I'm like, please hold. Was nerve-wracking. I mean, I believe in the work that we do, but I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't at least a little bit worried, because the literally first thing you did was put that knee in a position where it, it could get injured. So walk us through the first tournament, like leading up to that first tournament, and then how you felt during and after.
That was one of the most challenging. Okay, so it's a double-edged sword, and I think I was so afraid to get hurt, but also I knew this was my goal, and I had done. It's just like going back to preparing for competition when you're not injured, right? I knew that I had done everything that I needed to do. I had met all my criteria. I had gotten tested as far as my strength goes. All the data, everything said, like, you're ready. But there is that huge fear, right? You're coming back from something that completely changed your life for a year. And I don't know. I did a lot of mental work to prepare for that. And that's another thing we underutilize, right? A lot of people do not prepare mentally for competition. But that is something that...
What did that preparation look like? Sorry.
No, sure, for sure. It was a lot of reframing thoughts as far as like, what if I get injured, right? That's a big thing, a big fear, right? And that can go through anybody's mind before a competition. So instead of thinking, what if I get injured? It's more along the lines of, what if I win? As much as it could go wrong, it could also go right. And for me, it did go right. And, I did really well. And actually, I think...
Don't sugarcoat it. You rolled through everybody. We watched it. You rolled through everybody. It's okay. You can say that. You won all of your matches in the gi. You got gold in the gi, and then you did not do absolute in the gi, but you did do...
I didn't. Yeah, they took too fucking long to run the division.
but then you won gold in no gi, and then also in the absolute in no gi, or did you?
There was nobody in my division, so I just did absolute.
Okay, so just absolute. Okay, so you did gold in the gi and gold in the absolute in no gi.
Yes.
Okay.
And then this tournament was kind of my because the goal is always worlds, right? Mm-hmm. And then this was kind of my segue into that. Like, I'm going to do one to prepare, and then 2 weeks later I had worlds. And this was the tournament that I was prepping for the year before when I blew out my knee. And I went in, and my thought while I was in the bullpen was not, oh my God, I'm so nervous to compete. I'm so scared. I'm so this. My God, my thought while I was in the bullpen was, oh my God, not even a year ago, I was sitting crying on my couch wondering, am I ever going to be able to do this again? And I was there, and sorry, it's a little, yeah. But I was there again, and I was just so fucking happy to be there. It sounds counterintuitive, but I didn't give a shit whether or not I won, because I was there competing at Worlds, and that was the whole goal, was to be back there. And I went in, I'm like, I wonder if I can win a match. And this was my first major at Purple Belt, and I won the first match. And then I go, okay, I wonder if I can podium. So I won another match, and I podiumed. And then I was like, oh my God, like, okay, I wonder if I can go even higher on the podium. And I won the third match, and oh my God, I'm in the fucking finals of Worlds. And I wish they had recorded my last match. Something in the Flow Grappling recording got messed up, but my friends told me that were watching, when they have the side refs. And she goes, man, when you were running around shaking the side ref's hands, you just had the biggest fucking smile on your face. I remember I turned to her at one point, and I'm like, I'm here. What the fuck is going And I didn't win the finals, but I honestly, like, of course, I think back to it now and I'm like, fuck, I wish
Oh, we had
those
an
are my
incredible run.
mistakes. But man, to fucking tear my ACL and then come back and fucking get second at Worlds is like, fuck, like you couldn't ask for more, you know?
It's a great story.
But I think what all this is leading up to is the most important thing I realized was that my whole mindset around competing and training during this process had changed. It was 9 months of completely reinventing the way that I do things. And since then, I actually ran the statistics on my tournaments this year. I have competed in 5 tournaments. I have had 19 matches, and 15 of those matches I have submitted my opponent. It's almost an 80% submission rate. So the way that I'm doing things now, since I've come back from my injury, obviously something's working for me. So
you talk to me more about how you reinvented yourself. What is different now versus then?
Yeah. So couple of different things. One, I started working with an actual dietitian. As many jiu-jitsu athletes starve themselves to make weight, and that doesn't work. It sucks and it kills your performance. So now I work with somebody who actually has a college degree in order to dial in my nutrition, and that's been a game changer in and of itself. So I don't feel drained when I go to competitions anymore. I don't feel like I don't have to cut weight. I have somebody who gives me the numbers that I need and I do it. And I actually recently at Nogi Worlds didn't have the opportunity to work with that person for that tournament and did things the old way, and it sucks. And my performance suffered because of it. The second thing was working with somebody as far as mental training goes, and that's huge. You know, all the things that I preach as a coach, as far as not winning can't be the goal, and not worrying about anything else but performing and reframing and all of that. Learning. And also important too, not focusing on winning in training, not knowing your teammates aren't going to look at you any differently if you lose. All that has also been a huge game changer because now I'm not afraid anymore to go out and perform. And if I fuck up, so what, right? But now I have faith in myself. Every time I'm in the middle of a match, if you look at my face, I look so calm. Mm-hmm. And that's because I am just so focused on what I'm doing. I'm not afraid of losing. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm just focused on the jiu-jitsu, and it's the best.
Yeah. That's something that Josh and I talked about on our first episode, was letting go of all those expectations and just going out and performing. You can want to win and be okay with losing, and they're not mutually exclusive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Of course, everybody wants the gold medal. Of course you do. Nobody's saying that you don't want to win because your goal isn't to win, right?
Right.
But you cannot perform well out of a fear of losing. You can't, because it takes up too much of your bandwidth. Okay. So pretty much every aspect of my preparation as an athlete, right? And we need to something I started doing is focusing on myself as a whole athlete, right? I have diet, mental training, strength and conditioning, and jiu-jitsu. My jiu-jitsu training is different too. I'll go into that in a second. But my strength training has been also a huge part of it. I strength train at Victory Submission Strength. And
we do more than that because now you work there.
Well, yeah. Now I'm a coach there because things just kind of panned out that way.
But on your way back to, competing at a high level, that was one piece of the reinvention.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not just strength training, doing whatever fucking workout of the day is fucking posted on Instagram, whatever you see. It's dialed, customized personalized. It's functional movement. It's I don't know, it's just so much better. Like it's just we do so much more, right? We address mobility, we address different aspects. We train explosiveness, speed, power, isometric, eccentric, everything. And we have it dialed in, personalized for every athlete, including myself. So that was definitely a huge part of it. I feel in my division, I mean, unless they're on the sauce, like I feel stronger than anybody in my fucking division for sure. Like, not even a competition. But the last thing is my jiu-jitsu training. Now I am super lucky. I have more girls in comp class. That's another huge part of it, right? My training partners over at CTA are the best, and they push me, and sometimes a lot of times I get the shit kicked out of me. And but with everybody else in my division, I feel like I am moving in slow motion for the most part. And the last thing is, and the most important thing, I take rest when I need it. Despite the pressure of coming into train from the outside, of maybe other people's perceptions of it being lazy, if my body needs rest, if I'm overtrained, I will never blow my knee out for anybody ever again. I listen to my body. And this is, again, something I preach to my athletes now, both jiu-jitsu and over at Victory Submission Strength. If you need rest, there is no shame in taking rest. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You are only doing your body a disservice by pushing through its warning signals. There is a time and a place to train when you are tired, to practice being exhausted while you're doing jiu-jitsu. But it is not all the time. And you only increase your risk of injury and decrease your ability to adopt things into muscle memory when you train, when you are so fucking exhausted that you can barely move.
That's what they do to us in the military.
They sleep deprive us too. So
yeah, sleep deprivation, like use exercise for punishment. There's obviously different context because it's we're expected to fight wars and stuff. But even when it's in the context of just like exercising or punishing somebody like with push-ups or something like.
You mean the physical training that doesn't do anything for anybody and just breaks people's shoulders and their joints over time?
That is a better way to put it than what I said.
Yeah. the PT.
Yeah, the PT, the extra PT.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It does seem like they're moving in a different direction. The ACFT is like the new fitness test or whatever.
Actually, yes.
I wasn't even referring to the fitness test.
Okay.
I was just talking about like if you fuck
PT,
up
yeah.
and there's like do
basic training.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is like with the advent of the new fitness test, it seems like they're adopting or entertaining the idea of adopting a more holistic approach.
I fucking certainly hope so.
I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I certainly hope so. But that also means that the military would need to spend money on people who actually know what the fuck they're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was gonna say this experience of like this everyday pohada. Some of that everyday pohada that feels more militarized than like sports performance.
Well, it comes from that whole like Brazilian machismo, old school dojo storming, fucking my dick is bigger than yours, that's really where jiu-jitsu originated. We can say like, oh, gentle art, this, that, the other, but really what it was a bunch of pissed off Brazilians dojo storming other people and beating the fuck out of each other, right? Not to say that our history is not important. There is a lot of more honorable history to jiu-jitsu, but like that is part of it too, but the Everyday Pohada campaign was actually people take that out of context, because what it's actually supposed to mean is Everyday Pohada is supposed to be give your best to every day. Whether that best be 100%, it's not give 100% to every day even though you're fucking dying. It's give your best to every day even if that best is, man, I can only get up and stretch today to take care of my body. Some, like, even if that best is only 10% of your capability, that's where that originated
your
from.
Best 10%. Yeah.
That sounds like a much better usage of the
that,
phrase.
Yeah. Way better than it's been blown way out of proportion, I feel.
Absolutely. No, that 10% is your 100% for the day, right? So
that hashtag gets thrown around on all like the crazy, super hard rolls that you see on Instagram or whatever.
Everyday pull harder.
Yeah. That's where you see that phrase thrown around. So
it's not a guy doing mobility. Like everyday pull harder.
Oh my goodness.
No, but like that, even give your best to every day. That even goes for people who struggle with mental health issues, depression. Dude, if your best that day is that you can get up and maybe brush your fucking teeth, like do that.
Yeah.
And be proud that you did that because you gave your best to that day. That's what's important.
Absolutely.
Everyday pull hot.
And anybody who tries to shame you for that or squeeze more out of you does not have your best interest in mind. I don't know what they have in mind. I don't know why they're doing it. But every day, anybody who tries to push you past what you know is your best for the day, it's not for you.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right.
A good coach would know that too. Like you definitely push people, but not past their like. But
yeah. Well,
right.
I think a lot of that comes from there has to be a really dynamic feedback loop.
Yes.
And this is something that we preach a lot at Victory Submission Strength is like we are constantly not just watching and listening, but asking questions. Right? We're watching how does each rep look? Is the last one as good as the first one? Is it as fast as the first one? And then we're talking to the athlete saying, how did that feel? Where is that on a scale of 1 to 10? How many more reps do you have left? And we're trying to dial in on where are you today?
And that's the thing too, is I think a lot of that in our gym, it's amazing, right? But not everywhere is like that. A lot of coaches will be like, oh, give me one more, give me one more, give me one more. And here's the thing. If your athlete is struggling, first, as a coach, you have to, to some degree, you have to trust that your athlete knows what is best for them. You are not in their body, Yeah. But as a coach, you have to respect your athlete's boundaries. And on the flip side of that, as an athlete, you have to know what your boundaries are. And some athletes, it's going to be a job, and you can say this as my coach, sometimes if you have an athlete like me who sucks at identifying their own limits, you have to pull them back, right? If you let me, every lift I'd be trying to fucking kill myself, right? Maxing out. But I think that's part of the art of coaching, right? Is knowing when to push, say, hey, they're in a space where they can push, they can go right now,
Yeah.
Or knowing when to back off, like, all right, they're not there, we'll let them chill. Or knowing when to pull them back too. Mm-hmm. All of those things are equally important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a challenge in the jiu-jitsu space, probably because of the large classes.
Yes.
And it's really difficult to monitor all of those situations at once.
Yes.
But it is something that it should be thought about. Like it should at least be at the forefront of any coach's mind. It's like, where are my people today?
Yes.
And I need to be very sharply attuned to what's going on in the room.
And that's yes. And that's the thing too, that also goes on in jiu-jitsu too. It's like, we have a lot of coaches that push, say, man, why weren't you here to train today? And you say, oh, I am so sore, and that is valid. Your body needs time to heal. In my mind, a proper response is, okay, well, you can come in, if you want to push them, you can come in and drill, but a lot of the times the response is not that. It's, I don't care if you're fucking sore, come in and fucking train,
Right.
And that is, it sucks to say it, but these are people too that don't really have expertise on physical training. You know what I mean? Like, they don't respect the need for recovery. Half those athletes that you see out there doing everyday Pahada, fucking training 8 times a day, 5 or 6 days a week, like, most of them are on steroids. Let's be real here. You do not have the recovery potential that they do if you're not on steroids. And I think it's just such a toxic mentality of not respecting the athlete's need for recovery, both physical and mental.
Agreed. We're actually going to jump into hot takes right now. So we got a couple things for you. We're going to put you on the clock. You'll have 20 seconds to give us exactly what you think.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Anxiety.
Josh is going to monitor the clock here. I'll tell you, I'll give you the topic and then you just go.
Sure.
Cool?
Hot takes, hot takes. Woo! Hot takes.
Gabby Garcia versus Craig Jones. Who wins?
Go.
Oh, God. Gabby Garcia.
Why?
I think Craig Jones taps out due to just being uncomfortable.
We could take the next 5 seconds just laugh about that because that was pretty funny. And
That was
20.
Good. That was good.
Good job. All right, next one. IBJJF versus ADCC.
Go.
IBJJF because I like the gi, but ADCC because they're actually open about how many athletes use steroids.
Okay.
Ooh, that was a good hot
Yeah,
take.
that was. Okay. You got
6
5 more
anything to
seconds.
add?
Yeah.
Fuck the IBJJF.
Damn.
Ooh. Okay. Leg locks for lower belts.
Go.
No.
Just hard no.
Hard no. They don't.
In no context.
They don't have the control to know what they're doing as far as like heel hooks or positional awareness because it is more complicated positioning. Yeah, but just no.
All right. Last one. Elon versus Zuck. Who wins?
Go.
Oh shit. I think Zuck would fuck up Elon in any sort of ground match, and fucking Elon Musk, if he did some boxing training, he's built like a fucking barrel, so he would knock Zuck's head off his shoulders.
Perfect. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Those were great. Did you have anything you wanted to add to any of those?
No, I agree. I agree completely with everything except the leg locks. Everything except the leg locks.
Okay.
Sorry, Josh.
Great job. Fantastic. All right. Well, let's leave it there before we head out. Where can everybody find you? What do you want people to do?
So I teach a women's class over at CTA on Saturdays at 8:30. Ladies, no drop-in fee. You're welcome to come by. What do I want everybody to do? Somebody please fucking sponsor me. God. Please. Man. Oh my God. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I have one more thing I would like to say.
Okay.
Coaches, you cannot want victory for your athlete more than your athlete does. That's it. You can't want it for them. If they either want it or they don't. And you're not going to convince them to work harder by calling them lazy.
All right. Whoa. Yeah, that's a great soundbite there.
I never thought about that before. That's a really good point.
Yeah, that is. It's fantastic. Where can everybody find you on Instagram?
So I am at Jess Jitsu, but it's spelled at J3SSJITSU. Yeah.
Cool. Just Jitsu.
Just Jitsu.
Shall we close with a musical note?
We should. I was gonna say the outro first and then music.
No,
or music first, then outro.
No, just music.
Just music.
No, just kidding. Go ahead with your outro.
All right. Thanks for listening to another episode, everyone. If you enjoyed this podcast, like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us at Thanks for the Roll on Instagram and TikTok. Give us 5 stars. Write us a review wherever you listen, and share this episode with somebody you think would benefit from it. See you next time. Thanks for the roll.
Thanks for the roll.
Thank you.
For the roll.
For the roll.